The Last Voyage of the Demeter. This is a film from Andre Overdahl, and it's an adaptation of sorts of Dracula, Bram Stoker's classic novel, though not in the sense that it's an adaptation of the full text. Really, it's just sort of adaptation, interpretation, extension of a very tiny portion of the Dracula story that we all know, and kind of gets the main overall plot of that story going, and that Dracula is sailing away as cargo on this ship from Romania to England to his new life, which works out great. And what happened? What happened on that boat? Because we do know that when it arrives, there's some very mysterious circumstances. The crew is entirely dead, and they show that, of course, in the very beginning of this movie. So I mean, it's not too huge on kind of a spoiler element, I guess. So, but there will be spoilers in this review if you are concerned about anything being spoiled, in particular about certain aspects of this movie. But what happened on that boat? I think that's great opportunity for storytelling, and kind of taking a little peek at a smaller portion of the larger Dracula tale. So that's intriguing. And I guess, they had a hard time getting this production off the ground. It was kind of in development for years and years before this film. Really, there was only an audio drama, radio adaptation that was somewhat popular and well-known and revered. But they finally got it off the ground. They finally got this movie in theaters in 2023, released in August. And yeah, I went to go see it opening weekend, saw it with a few friends, and sad to say, the theater was quite empty, even opening weekend. And unfortunately, this wasn't a big hit, which is such a strange thing, because horror movies, you can never really tell. Some of them will just explode at the box office. They'll be huge mega hits, but then something like this, I don't quite know what it is. Were people not interested in Dracula? Were they not interested in a title that's more than two syllables? I don't know. There were kind of jokes leading it up to the release, like, oh, they should have called this Dracula on a Boat. It would have been so much more well received, and maybe that is true, sad to say. So I don't know what that says about modern audiences, and I don't know what this movie ultimately says about modern movies as a whole, because I don't know, like, let's say this was released 15 years prior, I would say it would be kind of an average movie. But I don't know, given the state of things today, movies are kind of getting worse, at least kind of mainstream, moderate to large budget studio movies, getting quite worse. I'd say today this is an above average movie, if only slightly above average. It definitely has begun already to gain a following. People are very enthusiastic about it, and I would count myself in that. I think it's really scary and atmospheric, and has some brutal moments. So altogether, I think it's well done. So again, it is a shame that it just didn't resonate somehow with modern audiences. Maybe just the whole Barbie and Oppenheimer thing just took over the whole summer. Even other movies just that you would expect to be hits just were kind of underperforming. I don't know, but it spent maybe 2 weeks in theaters, and it's already, by the time I have this upload, it's already been on digital and probably streaming at this point for quite some time. So I'm quite confident, actually, that it is going to gain a following even larger than already. So I think this will be remembered as a better movie than it performed as being at the box office, if that's a hugely important thing. So it might be a bigger hit at home which is great because it has everything that you kind of want to see in these kinds of movies. Like definitely, Andre Overdahl, he said in interviews that this is very much kind of like an alien inspired kind of horror thriller, and you know me, I love me some Alien, and it's very true. Like it's a matter of, you know, one by one people getting picked off, and I do think we have some really good talent here. Kind of the main character we have is Dr. Clemens, played by Corey Hawkins, who was you know, Dr. Dre in Straight Outta Compton. He was Macduff in The Tragedy of Macbeth. He's very good in the lead role. Kind of this, you know, we always kind of seem to have in these types of movies that take place in the past, we have the kind of more modern ambassador for characters. So we know he's a little bit of ahead, kind of looking at it in retrospect than the other characters around him. He kind of gets a sense that, you know, something not quite explanatory is going on. A man of science, a man of medicine. He has to kind of take those beliefs aside as strongly and firmly as he believes in them to realize what's really unfolding here. And we have, you know, Dracula in his coffin, and he's brought a little mid-trip snack with him. A woman emerges, you know, with mysterious wounds and things like that, and that's Ainsling Frykowski playing the character Anna, who, again, kind of a modern character. I mean, you know how it is today. People complain about, oh, it's a woman character in a movie like this. Oh, and she can stand up for herself and fight. Oh, stupid. Well, whatever. You know, any movie taking in the past is made today, so it's such a stupid thing. But other cast members, we have Liam Cunningham from Game of Thrones. He's great. Wasn't he great on that show? Did he live in Game of Thrones? I think he squeezed by, didn't he? But yeah, he was a great character. He's the captain of the ship, and he has his grandson along with him, and the kid's real kind of, I don't know, precocious and kind of a little bit cutesy, but not too much. And kind of my first thought here is, well, they gotta kill this kid. They gotta fucking kill this kid, and they do. And I thought it was well done in that respect. So it really doesn't pull any punches, and kind of keeps to the brutal nature of Dracula. And what's perhaps most interesting is that we do not get any of the kind of charming, you know, Bela Lugosi type of Dracula here. In 100% of it, from what we see, it's the monstrous, giant vampire, hideous demon kind of incarnation of Dracula, which is just, it's great. I mean, the makeup effects are just absolutely on point, and they do keep actually pretty fairly close to only practical effects in the movie. I mean, you know, there's some digital stuff here and there, of course, just for certain effects, but it is a primarily practical effects based incarnation of Dracula, which works great, and he really is this demon out of hell, which is really scary, and you know, I think plays against certain expectations of what we imagine a vision of Dracula to be. I mean, we do kind of expect at least a little bit of the charming and seductive kind of guy, but here he's just, you know, he's out in the middle of nowhere, out in the sea, and he's picking these guys off one by one, and it's a good, effective thriller, very good with its atmosphere, really builds up the tension quite nicely, even though, I mean, you can kind of argue that it just doesn't quite have suspense in knowing kind of where this ultimately goes. Though, I mean, like, that might not be quite so, because, you know, the way it ends is a little, I don't know, maybe that was the only problem I had with the movie, was the ending, where I won't quite give it away, but they kind of, like, they almost set it up for like a sequel, like, where it's like we do have a surviving character actually, and the ending of the movie is like, oh, I vow to get Dracula. I'll track him down. I'll get him, and that's it. It's kind of stupid. Well, it's Dr. Clemens, so there. Spoilers for everything. That I could have done without. I would have loved to see everybody die, but then I'm kind of thinking. I mean, it's been a little bit since reading the book. I think there is someone who does survive, and you know, it's not Renfield. I know, like, there's a whole, because, like, even that was a little bit weird for me. Like, at the beginning of the movie, I'm like, wait a minute, don't they, like, find Renfield inside the ship, and he's, like, all grinning like crazy? But then no, you remember that was purely a kind of conceit of the 1931 film, and the play that it, you know, took, if not adaptation from, inspiration from, just to kind of get around certain, you know, lengthy restrictions of the plot. So actual book, it's not Renfield in there, it's nobody in there, it's just, you know, the crew of the ship. So, you know, they have some wiggle room there. But whatever the case may be, I'm sure this survivor didn't become, you know, like Dr. Clemens' vampire hunter or anything like that. And given obviously the unfortunate box office underperformance of the film, I doubt we're going to see a sequel. Which is fine. I mean, I think it works as a standalone movie. I think it works as a complement to just about any adaptation of Dracula, because it is just the pure demonic Batman form of him. You could kind of connect it to pretty much any adaptation, and I think it works well within the confines of that. So. I consider myself a fan of this movie. I really, really enjoyed it. I think it should have been a bigger hit, but I'm sure it will kind of gain this respect and status in the years to come. And hey, that's not too bad. Of course, you always want a movie to be successful, but it's unpredictable in Hollywood. What can I say? But well worth seeing, even though I've spoiled it. Check it out. Very fun movie, very entertaining, and spooky. Good to watch during spooky season. So that's my review of The Last Voyage of the Demeter. Check it out, and I'll be doing more horror movie reviews for spooky season. Be sure to check more out. Be sure to comment, rate, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'll see you next time, and stay scared.